So for this video, I just wanted to clarify God. And the conclusion is, my conclusion, and I know I'm not the only one, and I know this is true, is that there is no God. So what is God? Well, God is really just a human-made concept. And I'm pretty sure it was made by, white Caucasians or humans who were Fitzpatrick 1, 2, or maybe 3, but I'm pretty sure it was Fitzpatrick 1 people on some level. An Irish person, a British person, I'm pretty sure, a lot of things start from them. Whether they came up with the concept themselves or overheard things and then helped to develop it, I'm pretty sure it's those groups. And in this case probably also includes the Romans and the Greeks. For instance, the Greeks, they definitely get credit for the evolution of the concept of God, which is because they wrote so much about being gods and goddesses, or their gods and goddesses, such as Aphrodite, Zeus, Hermes, Hades, and many, many others. I think they had at least 12. And so, yeah, that is real. In that reality, the word God and the use of God as a concept does exist. But again, that still points to man, because those were people, mortals, mere mortals who had a godly status, similar to the status that religions ascribe to other humans who are merely human and still die and will never return in human form or ever. They exist as heat, because the heat from their body dissipated into the universe and collided with other molecules throughout the universe or the atmosphere of Earth, and that is all that they are. There is no God, definitely in the mindset that of omnipotence, omnipotence, and omniscience. That is not real. That is what people want and like to believe, because it makes them feel better. They feel like there's something out there taking care of them when they can't take care of themselves. But the reality is the people who help them are people in their communities, or their family, or their friends, or hearing something on the radio, or watching people on television or on YouTube, or, searching things on Google. Google might as well be God in this day and age. And also doctors and surgeons and scientists, and yes, even theologians. Yes, priests can and, try to be helpful. But one, they're definitely not God. They usually don't ascribe to be. And two, their concept of God is a delusion. That's the unfortunate thing. And I think that might be a reason why some priests, get conflicted when they finally come to conclusions like that. And Thomas Merton is probably one example. I have not read enough of his work to really scrutinize, his ideas and thoughts. But my understanding, he was conflicted on the concept of God, his concept of God. He probably believed initially, and then maybe just couldn't be atheist because he was a priest, or maybe he was atheist at some point. I don't know. There are people who know more about Thomas Merton than I. Maybe they'll comment on this video. But so to summarize, to finish up with some of the other comments, so some of the other things that spawn from these ideas of God, in this situation also from some of the Greek ideas, is the concept of heaven and hell. Those also don't exist in the way that people try to use them, as if our bodies or our souls are going to go to some heaven. Again, we're just energies. So all that happens when our heart stops beating and we die is we decay and eventually become some form of heat. That is, the reality. That is really what happens. And if you want to call that going to heaven, go right ahead. But that's not, actually as scientifically correct as it could be. And if you want to consider that going to hell, then go right ahead. But again, that's also not as scientifically correct as it could be. When it comes to heaven and the Greeks' definition, as I understand it from what I've read, the Greeks, were really referring to things that they were seeing that were heavenly. And these things were like the clouds. They would look up and see these amazing skies, laying in some field maybe, and they would consider that to be heaven, And I think from there, the concept of heaven was a place that we would all want to get to. But the reality is, heaven, if anything, is really right here on earth. So you got to make your heaven while you're living and enjoy it. And you got to be God. There's no doubt about that. I mean, God complex is real. You don't need to go crazy. But ultimately, you choose your destiny. It's not predetermined. And I've even tested that in my own life twice now and come back to that same conclusion in slightly different ways. If you want to know my religious background, I was raised Catholic, which is a part of Christianity. I was even an altar boy. I worked with some of the priests, specifically at St. Andrew's School, as an altar boy. My mother is Catholic, my grandmother is Catholic, so they're very Catholic. My mother still believes in God and is hoping to go to heaven. My father was Anglican, so that was another Christian influence, and my maternal grandfather was also Anglican, as well as my paternal grandparents. And I think my father, I'm not sure if he's in between, if he's somehow agnostic at this point, but I know he's not as much of a believer as my mother. But I've definitely consulted with, theologians, believers, and atheists, and I know there is no God. For me, there's no question. I'm an atheist, but definitely a Catholic atheist. I still do enjoy the Catholic Church. I still do enjoy that sense of community, the regalness, even the wealth of the Catholics. I mean, they have some amazing buildings and rituals and festivities that I really do enjoy. But I just don't. I just know that belief is invalid. Does it help people? Maybe at some points in time. But quite honestly, the people who really figure that out and, start to lead a superior life really understand that God is just another silly, man-made, and sometimes stupid concept. So that is my take on God. Please do view, like, subscribe, comment, and share this video. And definitely contact me if you have any questions. And if you want to know how I got to some of my conclusions, I've written about much of this in my books, but I'm definitely willing to write more on this if there are specific questions people would like to have answered. And again, my name is Adrian Dane Kenny, and I have Jamway Conglomerate, which is comprised of Jamway Hospital and Services, Jamway Research Firm and Consulting, Jamway Productions, and Jamway Publishing Company. And I'm a doctor, as well as a futbolista.